Dawn, there will not be a massive underdog in this game. Number 2, Georgia. At number 4, Alabama, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. The storylines to know in this game is quite simple. This is the biggest game of the entire college football season so far. It's the first time that 2 top 5 teams are squaring off. Dawn, also, arguably, at least for us, because we put them top 2, the 2 best coaches in college football, and Kalen DeBoer and Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart number 1 for us, Kalen DeBoer number 2 for us. Also, 2 quarterbacks who have Heisman Trophy aspirations and first-round aspirations in Carson Beck and Jalen Monroe. And not to mention, the winner of this game, at least for us, will be the new number 1 team in the country. I don't think you can say anything else. If Georgia wins, they'll unseat Texas. If Alabama wins, they'll move all the way up to number 1 probably as well. Grab your popcorn. This is going to be a blockbuster of a game. This is going to be absolutely special. It's the biggest game of the season that we've had so far.
Absolutely. I mean, this is college football now. You know, we've had fun through the first few weeks. Now it's getting serious, isn't it? We got top 5 matchups. We're in conference play. I mean, this is as good as it gets. And last year we only got to see it once in the SEC title game. It was a fantastic game, and I would expect the same thing. This is as tight a game as you could have this early in the season, and it's one of several that Georgia's got coming. They've got the gauntlet coming to them. Bama and Ole Miss and Texas, and there's probably one I'm missing. And I mean, Georgia's got the absolute gauntlet they're working through in the SEC, and this is the first one.
That's why I said the biggest game of the year so far, because there's a chance that Texas, Georgia's number 1 versus number 2. There's other, like Tennessee, Georgia could be a top 5 game.
Tennessee was the other one. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I said so far. It's the biggest game so far, but we have some massive games the rest of the season as well. But this is certainly going to be one of the biggest games of the entire season. Dalton, you have the Georgia offense in this game. What should we be looking out for when Carson Beck and that offense against this Alabama defense, what should we be looking out for?
So I love Carson Beck, and he's really good. We know he's really good, right? We're talking potential first-round pick and all of that. But Georgia's passing game through 4 games, just does not look the same right now. No Brock Bowers and no Ladd McConkey from last year. Both went in the NFL draft, high in the NFL draft. And it's just they're in obvious passing situations. They're not clicking right now, and they need someone on the outside to step up. Whether it's the tight ends, Ben Urasek, Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky at receiver. You've got Dominic Lovett, right? I mean, they just need to find something that's going to work consistently, because the more I watch them on third downs and when they're not using play action, it's a real issue. I'm going to start with the non-play action thing right now, okay? 3 really good backs, right? Frazier, Robinson, Etienne. Use them, get to play action, really good offensive line. When we're getting in drop back situations, I got a passing grade of 54.4. I've got a receiving grade 58.7. I've got a team offense grade that's 100th in the country in non-play action situations. Last year, Carson Beck's passing grade in non-play action was 88.5. Right now, it's 55.7.
Wow.
It's just the weapons around him are not the same without Brock Bowers and without Ladd McConkey. And I know both of those guys went through their injuries last year, but when they were on the field, they were primetime players. That's why they both went in the top 40 of the draft.
And
right?
they're balling right now in the NFL,
and they're both balling in the NFL right now. Brock Bowers might already be the best tight end in the NFL. My goodness. And McConkey for the Chargers, really. But both, when they were healthy, primetime players.
Yep.
No question. They're missing those 2 specific guys in this offense right now. And what I'm seeing is just when they have to throw the ball, it's just not clicking. Nope, they're not getting open. The timing's off, and they're relying a lot on yards after catch. And honestly, they haven't even played a great coverage team yet. Clemson, who we normally think of as a great defense, but right now they're 58th in coverage grade, in part because they played Georgia. And Kentucky's 60th, and then they played an FCS team in Tennessee Tech. So they have not lit it up through the air by any means. Play action, and when they're working off the run game, solid stuff. It's working because, again, you have 3 really, really good backs and just a spectacular offensive line that you have to worry about blocking, right? But it's just, can they, in obvious passing situations, 3rd and 8? Can Georgia win 3rd and 8 in this game? Because they're gonna come moments where they have to throw into it. And look, Nick Saban's gone, and he was always a big defensive back guy. Alabama's still really good in the secondary.
Yeah,
it's still really, really good. 12th in coverage grade so far this year. And if you take out play action, go to those non-play action passes, they're in the top 7 in coverage grade and EPA per play allowed. And they are just elite at just shutting you down. They only have 2 interceptions on the year. I think it was in their first quarter of the year when Keon Sabb had the 2 interceptions. They don't get interceptions, but they shut you down. 2.89 yards per coverage snap, which is ridiculous.
Wow.
It's more than a half yard better than any other team in the country.
Oh,
Alabama's secondary, especially its safety with Sabb and Malachi Moore, and we've talked about a lot of their young corners, they're just lights out. And I know they haven't played dynamic passing games yet. Wisconsin obviously is not a dynamic passing game. Western Kentucky kind of is, at least at the G5 level, and they shut them out. And USF is dangerous with Byron Brown and Sean Atkins, some things. But, it's a lights out. It is like no chance. We still don't give up big plays. We still don't give up first downs in the secondary. So there's a bit of an element here for me with Georgia where they're going to be punching a brick wall a little bit in the passing game. If they're not ahead of the chains and they're in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and Bama's loading the box to stop the run, I have faith in Carson Beck. Carson Beck can do it. We saw him do it all last year. But I need weapons to step up for this Georgia team. Okay, they just had a week off this past week, right, after the Kentucky game?
Yes. They both had weeks off. They both coming off a bye week.
Well, that's going to be fun, too, to see what they come out of bye
Kalen
weeks.
DeBoer, 2 weeks to prepare. Kirby Smart, 2 weeks to prepare. That's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think, and there's so many, as much as the physical and all the big names that are playing on the field, there are so many strategic elements to this game, and you've got a ton of them on your side of the ball here, too. But for me, I worry about Georgia if they get in too many 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 8s in this game, because through 3 games, they have not shown that they can just drop back and throw the football. And that's different from last year when they had Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey last year. It was a lot easier. Beck was playing a lot better. The receivers, the weapons, everybody was getting open. It was working. Right now it's not working, and they're missing those 2 top weapons.
Dawn, my matchup on the other side of the ball. Can Georgia speed up Jalen Moreau just like they did last year? Listen, the book is out on Jalen Moreau. If you give him time in the pocket to find open receivers downfield, he's going to beat you. He's going to beat any defense in the country. That's just who he is, because he has an absolute rocket launcher attached to his right shoulder, and he wants to attack downfield. Right now, Dawn, his average at the target is 12.5 yards downfield, and his average time to throw is 3.03 seconds. That's among the 20 highest in the country. The year before, he was top 5 in average at the target and average time to throw. But if you force him to get rid of the ball quickly, that's where he has far more issues. You can see it right there. Over the last 2 years, he has a 43.2 grade, passing grade under pressure, which is 121st in the country. But when he's kept clean, he's 14th in the country with a 91 passing grade. When he's blitzed, he has a 107th best passing grade in the country at 63.2. When he's not blitzed, again, 14th in the country with an 89 passing grade. So when you give him time, he will beat you. But if you speed him up, that's when he all of a sudden turns into a guy that has a lot of issues. And Georgia knew this last year. In that SEC title game, they blitzed him on 48% of his dropbacks. And on 41% of his dropbacks, they got a pressure on him. And I know Alabama won that game, but it was the worst Milroe game of the entire season. He had a 50.2 passing grade. That was the lowest he had all year, even lower than the Texas game last year when he got benched the following week against USF. So Kirby Smart is going to be smart to blitz Milroe and get pressure at him and force him to get rid of the football quickly. I think it's pretty simple. Jalen Moreau is who he is. He is who he is. And I think Kirby Smart should blitz him as much as possible, get pressure on him as much as possible. That is the way for Georgia to win this game, because if not, Ryan Williams, those other weapons, they will win downfield against Georgia. But if you get pressure on him, that's how Georgia can win this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think what you have is how much does Kirby Smart trust his secondary, which I think you could argue, other than their offensive line, might be the best part of their whole team, Malachi Starks and those guys in the secondary. How much do you trust them to cover a pretty good Bama receiver group that's coming on, and certainly Ryan Williams.
Stud.
I mean, you got a 17-year-old kid who is maybe the most important player on the field in a Alabama-Georgia game, in the biggest game of the year. He
should be a high school senior right now. I mean, now he's a pivotal player in this
biggest game of the year, and he might be the difference-making player. But you're right. There's not much quick game in this offense. You don't get many 5-yard outs and much of the quick stuff. But I think it's going to be interesting to me. I think what I've seen from Bama's offense is a lot of very spread out sets, obviously with Kalen DeBoer, a lot of empty sets.
Yep.
And I think that's a moment, too, where Kirby Smart has to decide. There are some coaches who like when offenses go empty, They like to counter it with blitzing. Let's get 5-on-5 up front. Let's even get 6-on-5 up front. Let's get a free rusher. Let's send a 0, and let's make him either get rid of the ball or, honestly, most of the time against the blitz, when Milroe has success, he's taking off running.
Yep.
He's not going to throw through it. That's not what he does. He's going to take off running. He's going to be an athlete. He's going to be Jalen Milroe, right? Kirby, you're right. Maybe he goes even, you said 48.3%.
Yep.
Might even go more than that. I have to wonder if you just do it every time. So I think that's big. We saw it in the Georgia game. We saw it in the Michigan game when they beat Bama. We saw it in the USF game. Well, that game was close. Why? Because USF kept blitzing Milroe. It just works. So Kirby, look, I think Kirby in this game, he's got to have one of his best. He's got to have one of his best called games in this game, because I do think, the threat of Milroe and the explosiveness and Ryan Williams emerging, it's a threat. It's a constant threat. And Milroe, he's got his flaws, but man, does anybody else stress defensive coordinators out more than Jalen Milroe?
No, he's probably got the best tools in the country at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it's just insane physical tools. So you're right, Kirby Smart. I think Kirby Smart's gonna have to call an A+ game for Georgia in this one.
Yeah, definitely. So Dalton, in what is the biggest game of the year so far, who will win this game and who will be our new number 1 team in the country?
It's a tough game, man. These are always you got 2 of the 5 best teams, or maybe 6 or 7 best teams in the country, and they're just so hard to pick. But something that's sticking with me is the fact that Alabama did win the SEC title game, and that was with Brock Bowers and with Ladd McConkey, and this Georgia. First of all, Georgia's passing game does worry me. I would need to see their passing. If you ask me which team has the better passing game in this game, it's Alabama. Right now, it's Alabama. Some other things we could argue, the run games, I think, are more even than you think. I think Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, Jalen Milroe, they've been running the ball well, too. They ran the ball well in Wisconsin, and Georgia's run defense has not been elite this year, and their defensive line has not been elite this year. Better in the pass rush, better, obviously, they blitzed the living hell out of Kentucky, and they just harassed them, but even Kentucky ran the ball well in that game, right? I mean, Georgia's been giving up rushing yards. I have Alabama 27-20.
Okay.
I think, first of all, I think of the 4 units that are on the field, I actually think right now Alabama's defense is the best one. I think Bama's defense can dictate a lot in this game if they get Georgia behind the chains. I think Bama's run game can have some success, and you've talked for a while about their offensive line. They got Caden Proctor back last week. Now it's the offensive line they were supposed to have. They had a good day against Wisconsin. Still some work to do, but Proctor came right in last week and led them in pass blocking grade. So if Proctor's in there and now Tyler Booker's back at guard where he's supposed to be, and you've got this elite offense, and you got 2 elite. Are these? Did you have these 2 as the 2 best offensive lines in the country?
Yes.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's gonna tell a big story with these 2 offensive lines, but I like Bama's run game and their balance in this game. I think they're more balanced, and I think their defense. I think you have 2 similar defenses, but I think the matchup of Bama's defense against what's going on in Georgia's passing game right now gives them a little bit of an edge. I'm taking Alabama.
Okay. I will go the opposite way. I am taking Georgia to win this game, 24-23. I go back and forth on this one, Don. I truly think it's a coin flip.
Really tough.
It's a really, really tough game, but you mentioned right there that Kentucky game. That's the blueprint, because Brock Vandagriff was looking lost out there when he was blitzed that much. I'm saying Jalen Milroe is a lot better than Brock Vandagriff. I'm not saying that. But at the same time, that is the blueprint for Jalen Milroe. And we've seen it this year and last year. This is just who he is. Like, when you blitz him, when you get pressure on him, he's not that great. And Georgia knew that last year in the SEC title game, and they did it, and then they just ended up losing the game anyways. But I think Georgia's going to win this one, and with Nick Saban now gone, Kirby Smart is going to prove why he is, without a doubt, the best coach in college football. And Dolan, right now, he's 1-5 against Alabama in his career. I think it goes up to 2-5 after this one. So I got Georgia winning this one 24-23 in a nail biter. And in the biggest game of the year, Georgia wins it and goes back to being the number 1 team in the country, at least for us, and that should be in the AP poll as well.